Hey everyone, I'm going to review Dragon's Panzer III Ausf J from 2007. It's kit number 6394. And it's the initial tooling of their modern Panzer III kits. Since this one, there's been about 30 based on this tooling. This is regarded by myself and a few of my modeling friends as the best Panzer III kit ever and possibly the best Dragon kit ever. So let's have a look at it and find out why we think that. So we have our instructions and a little pamphlet about the tooling, and usually when it's the first tooling of a kit you get this, and it's just a few words about what they have changed since the old toolings, you know, new lower hulls and turrets, where they've added photo etch, and there we've got some ads for other stuff. Instructions are typical. Any of the blue areas you will see are because a lot of this kit, like the suspension, relies on the Stug 3G kit, which was a new tooling the same year as this, but slightly before it. Step 1 is very familiar to anybody doing Stug 3s or Panzer 3s. These very nice idlers with the PE that goes in between the two halves, and the adjuster, which is a pretty nice piece. Sprockets and return rollers, and then right away we will be doing torsion bars and the escape hatch, which actually has the hole cut in, unlike the earlier toolings. The torsion bars down here are bars with separate swing arms. All of this goes together very, very well. Step 4, we've got the rear plate with the exhaust and some other parts. They're suggesting wheels go on, but as usual I would not. Then here we've got like a deflector and these things that go around the exhausts and the very back of the rear plate. This version of Panzer III has these smaller PE grills here and the smoke launchers that kind of come between it. For the fenders, we have a spare wheel and all of the tools, as well as two options for the rear flaps. One has a PE part, the other one is solid plastic. In case you want to have the flap up, you can leave this PE part down. And then down here we just have the jack and a no-tech light. Jack's pretty complicated, but we're used to that. Right here's the other fender. More tools, all clasp molded on. This side's a little bit simpler by the look of it. You do have this tiny little bugger that goes on the rear flaps. Alright, so here we're on the engine deck. These sort of spacers for this piece here, this is pretty easy. Same on all the Stug kits. Place in a couple of tie downs. This one has the, by the look of it, two separate tow cables. Sometimes they have like a solid piece that has them sort of figure 8 shaped. And then intakes and PE grills going on right there. Alright, so top of the upper hull, we just have this little deflector. The actual sort of front itself, the lights, I'm not sure which kind of lights those are. Okay, like the early blackout lights. BOMG, the front plate, it's going to have movable visors on everything. So the way that these Panzer IIIs go together, I'll move to this part. You always have this top bit, sort of a reinforced main part, and then you'll have each side plate come on and then the front come on. Each one of these plates has a optional, like, workable, or you have to glue it in place, but you can either have it open or closed, a little vision port. They actually, sometimes I have trouble with these, but I didn't on this, and it was the first Dragon kit I ever built, and it was wonderful. So it's like, so you got a clear part, and then two different plastic parts, then the hole, and then another plastic part, and it all kind of goes together better than you'd expect. So after you have all those bits together, you put them all onto that upper hull piece, and then down with the fenders onto the lower hull. Here's where they're telling you to do magic tracks, and there's some extra bits to hold tracks there, of course. You've got some spaced armor that's optional here in step 15, and that's the last part of the lower hull. Here we have the cupola, which is very, very familiar to a lot of kits, so relatively straightforward. You got the bottom piece, top piece, optional for open or closed versions of the vision blocks, and then you've got a clear part that goes in there. Mantlet's pretty nice. The way that it's molded is good. You've got options for the spaced armored thing, so two little parts there. But this goes together really easily. A big plus to this kit, you've got the L60 or L42 50mm gun, so you can build basically any version of a J. And then, you know, the amount of breech in this is fine. There's nothing else in the turret really other than the breech, but it's a fine breech. Here it is with the 2 halves and a little bit that goes up in there. It's fine. And then these vision things are also openable, so you can position them so that they're seeing through there. Putting all of the breech and mantlet stuff together with the top of the turret. Now you've got the same type of workable, or positionable rather, visors on both sides of the turret, and some little bits that go on the back that have to do with holding the turret basket and stuff. And then on the bottom you've got this seat, you've got a ventilator. This bin is pretty well made, it's nice. And here you're finally mounting this spaced armor over the mantlet if you so choose. Final assembly of the turret. Cupola going down, grab handles, top side of the ventilator. The doors would go on to the main hatches, which you can position open. There's also a vision block for those. There's these little rain guards and stuff that go over there. There's been multiple versions of this on different kits. I think the Panzer IV had PE versions of that, but then turret goes down into hull and we're done. We also have here a nice graph of options for space armored or not, L42 or L60. Marking options, we have Stalingrad, Panzer Gray. We've got Stalingrad again in whitewash, and just a Russian 42, Eastern Front 42, Kharkov Leibstandarte, which would be pretty cool. I actually am thinking about doing this one here. And then Tunisia 43. We've got a Viking Division Russia 43 and a Tobruk 42. So as you can see, that is some pretty serious marking options. You have things from, like, so we have L60 on these two, and these two, and this one. And then the short barrel is here. But you've got everything from, you know, Stalingrad to Africa. I'm leaning towards the Kharkov one, although I would like it to have a longer barrel with Winterketten. And I'm not sure, because I have a kit that specifically is just for that, but I have some workable Winterketten I want to try out. This kit comes with the old school Dragon card. The tracks are 40 centimeter magic tracks with hollow guide horns. Very clean. I don't do any cleanup or worry about these. I normally will glue them by putting glue here and then fitting them together one by one, just bang, 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 letting them set as I build them and then wrap them around. I've had no problems with that in the past. Detail is very good. Decals look very good. Lots of cool divisional markings. Very, very varied turret numbers. All the Balkenkreuz look about the same weight though. These are cartograph and most likely excellent. The photo etch is sparse, but everything we need. So the main things that you'll see are the two-piece rear flaps. These rings for the idler, different vents. These are for the intakes on the upper engine deck, and then these are for on the back. And really, it's all you need for a Panzer III. Very good weight to this stuff. Actually, a really good amount for a beginner to use. Then we have this, which is our jack and our tools with molded-on clasps. This jack builds up really nicely. I have done it quite a few times. Fidelity of the parts is very, very good. And these tools, I don't feel any need to replace. I like molded-on clasps, so I do remember the sprue gates and that no-tech light being slightly annoying, but these tools work perfectly well. And then here you have like this empty one, which I always like. This ends up in my spares and I use it for all kinds of stuff. Then we have this sprue, which is our bow MG. There you can see that the barrel is already hollowed out. It's a very nice assembly. It's very similar on all of these kits, so if you've done this thing once, you're probably familiar with it. But it goes together pretty nice. Lastly, on the Dragon card, we have clear parts, which are, by the look of it, just a few vision blocks and maybe some light bulb. Typical Dragon clear sprue. We also have this clear sprue, which is more vision blocks for the cupola, and then I think for the main vision slot right there. Same type of plastic. Works pretty well. So this sprue is some mantlet, tow cables, and other parts for the turret by the look of it. And then this would be our spaced armor. These are these armored parts for the engine deck. They look pretty nice, very clean. These are the mounting brackets for the smoke launchers. If you don't use these work really well for other companies' Tiger 1 kits. Although I think the mounts might be different. Yeah, they are, but you can modify that. Front plate. These are all very thin, by the way. These are the hinges for the engine deck right here. And our jack block. Spaced armor's got some nice rivets on it. And then the tow cables. I'm not a huge fan of styrene tow cables, but I'm certainly not a fan of trying to wrap any kind of real cable into this shape, so I'm okay with these. They work pretty well. This sprue has our deflector for the exhaust, our swing arms, our suspension exhausts, the rear plate itself, the lower end, the upper part. So these pieces are very, very nice. These plates all have very nice and very tight race detail. Suspension looks really, really good. There's your idler adjusters. This is our gun sprue. Now here you will see the L60 and the L42, the sort of shell catch bag, the breech itself, and then the guard that goes around it. That's primarily all that's on this sprue. You'll see this in later kits, but you will see one or the other of these barrels removed, which is always a little heartbreaking because the initial Panzer III that I built, first Dragon kit I ever built, was just missing the L60. Apart from that, it was like this exact same kit. The barrels are hollow, of course, and slide molded. Only 2 attachment points here and 2 knockout marks. That should be relatively easy to handle. This one won't even be seen. And there's your L42. That one's only got 3 attachments on it. Both very nice barrels. There's your catch bag. Nice texture to it. Very square. I'm not sure. I assume that's accurate. You've got some tie downs for the turret. Here's your seat. Some really fine, easily to break parts right there. There's your breech guard. Nice detail on that as well. Then you have 2 of this sprue. This is from the Stug 3G kits that came out. This would be Panzer III suspension. You've got front of the wheels, back of the wheels, spare wheels, torsion bars, final drive housings, idler and sprockets, spare pins, and then various other bits. This can actually change depending on which kit you have. We'll add stuff to this. And then your return rollers there. One thing I constantly find with these kits is broken pieces on these wheels. These look pretty good. These little pegs here, they're basically spacers for the wheels. These can break very easily. These look alright. These are mounts for the rear engine deck spare wheels. There's your return rollers. These are rubber return rollers, or rubberized, I suppose you'd say. That's for the idler right there. That's like the hub for the idler. These are nice. Back side of the wheel, doesn't look like I've got many or any broken pegs there. There's your torsion bars, some wing nuts. Final drives are very nice. There's your pins, none broken there either. Sprocket front and back, sprocket looks good. Idler looks clean. There's the outer face of the wheels. Everything looks really good on here. So then we have this sprue, another Stuk 3G sprue. So it might seem odd since this was a new tooling, and say you bought this in 2007, you'd be like, hey, why are their parts cut off already? Those are Stug fenders that are missing. So what is here? That's a front plate for sure on Stugs, the upper sort of plate where the driver and radio op would go. Some more sort of applique stuff, I think that's Stug specific as well. Here's your engine intakes, there's a toolbox, and some more parts for the engine deck. That's also a Stug 3G MG shield. These little mounts are for the armor on the engine deck. There's your Stug shield, in case you needed to spare one of those. This you will be using. It's a very nice piece, a little bit stiffer than some other parts. In a good way. It's not thick, but it's reinforced and it's very good. That's sort of your front lower plate. It's got a nice weld on it. The intakes are nice. Of course, you'll have PE going over top of this. And you've got some tie downs that go on here. I think a tool of some kind that goes in there. Nice little toolbox there. Then we have this sprue, which would be our main sort of centerpiece for the upper hull. And that's the top plate that goes on top of it. Here's your two side plates, fender supports, hinges, more engine intakes, the escape hatches for the lower hull, styrene versions of that secondary piece for the mud flaps. Another toolbox, more tools with clasps molded on, tons of tie downs and things. You'll also notice that I have parts taped to this sprue. The guy that I bought this from, because I got it off eBay, had forgot that he had cut off the cradle for the antenna, and then he messaged me and said, hey, do you care? And I said no, because I plan to build it and I don't mind. That plate, nice. You've got some raised rivet stuff. I've had to shave that off for various kits. There's your side pieces. These very nice and crisp, these. Can't get over the fidelity of that still. When I first built a Dragon kit, I built this alongside a Tallery Panzer IV, and just the sharpness of this detail was like mind-boggling to me. This piece is very firm. That's not going to lose its shape at all. These are your fender supports. The escape hatches. These are ends for the jack by the look of it. There's your, see, so these have PE parts that represent this, and I think these might be styrene versions of that, which I was not aware existed. There's your other engine intakes. I think the difference between these and the ones in the Stug 3 kit would be that there's no tie downs or tool mounts here. So these might be the ones we use. So fire extinguisher, crowbar, axe, shovel. Yeah, the wood grain on this cradle is nice. Alright, then we've got a very sparse but important sprue. We have sort of up-armored variant of our upper hull plate, another version of our front plate, fenders, two mantlets, hatches, and our engine deck. Fidelity on that, it's very crisp. Really nice piece there. Fenders have anti-slip texture, very fine on that side. And on the bottom side, a nice sort of hinge-like detail on the bottom side as well. This piece is very, very nice. That's the smoke launchers for the rear. There's your engine deck, lots of little mounts for the tow cables and other parts there, but a very, very nice piece. Then we have this sprue, which is our cupola. This has been in a ton of kits, even my T-34 Panzer kit I just built. It is pretty simple. I mean, there's your two main parts to go together. There's your hatches, and then your open and closed division block areas. Then we have this guy, which is another mantlet of a different type, smaller type. And then the bottom part of our turret and our turret basket. So the lower part of the turret does not have the little tabs that come out, and it does have teeth in the turret ring. It's very nice. And there's our turret basket, barely hanging on to the sprue. Very nice though. This large part of it all molded together, so you just have to put the back and the top on. There's the back part which mounts into the turret, and there's your top lid. This is your much smaller mantlet, or variants of the mantlet, this one and this one. That's some interior mantlet stuff. Then we have this sprue, which is just our turret hatches or doors, our ball MG mount, a bunch of stuff for vision blocks, more smoke launcher mounts, smoke launchers themselves, our antenna, lots of little but important parts. That looks nice. That's the main driver's vision slot. These hatches are good, just don't put them on backwards. I may have done that on my first kit. Just pay attention to what you're doing, as always. More convoy lights by the look of that. Ventilator, visions blocks. There's your smoke launchers. If I don't use these on a kit, they will gladly go on a Ryefield Tiger. Those are the actual smoke grenades themselves. There's our antenna. Tiny bit of flash there. No big deal. We also have in a separate bag our gun sleeve, which is a very nice piece. I'm not sure why they ended up putting it separate, but at least I don't have to clean it up. Then we have our lower hull. Now, I've had a lot of trouble with Stug 3 G hulls having these pegs for the torsion bar snapped off, so I'll have a look at that. Overall though, the difference with the Panzer III is obviously you'll have these holes for the escape hatches, which you can leave open if you want. I did it once. Overall, it's very, very firm and a really nice base, this lower hull. Now, please keep in mind that these 3 notches need to be removed. Since this was the first Dragon kit I ever built, or a variant of this kit, I actually took like a couple-week break because I was very new, and I could not figure out how to mount the fenders because I was just being stupid and I didn't see that you needed to cut these off. So these come off. And then, apart from that, this thing was very easy for me. The detail is fantastic, really. I mean, just so sharp. It's almost 10 years ago that they made this kit, but it's just gorgeous. There, all of our pegs are intact. Very, very nice base. Lastly, we have our main piece of our turret. It's a good base. There are lots of little fine details in there. There's not much to it, to be honest, but what is there is correct and very, very sharp and thinner than you'd expect, actually. So that's the kit. I get asked all the time, you know, what would you say is the best Dragon kit? Or, you know, what would you recommend for beginners? Or lots of other questions like that. This thing, although as I said, I built a variant of it. I built the J initial, and this is just the J, so there's just a little more options in here. It's what started my obsession with Dragon, and you've seen a lot of Dragon reviews on my channel, I assume. This is it right here. So when I built this, I was still this was Rattle Can Model Masters. I didn't have an airbrush yet. I never decaled it. I never even weathered the thing. I barely even detail painted it. But I built this and just lost my mind because it was such an experience. You know, I didn't paint the inside of the turret either. It's all black. But like I said, I got stuck on the lower hull part where I didn't understand the tabs, so I actually had to take a break and I was a little bummed out because up until then it had been really, really fun. And then when I eventually figured it out, I looked at a lot of blogs and stuff. It was the first build I ever had that I felt challenged me, and then when it was done, I was like really, really impressed with it. So, you know, essentially this kit is what made me a fanatic about building armor models, and it's what made me a fanatic about Dragon. And yeah, now I'm, you know, deep in the drama of how bad the company's business practices have become, but this is why. And if you want to know what, you know, what I'm all about, get one of these things, or the J initial. Either way, it's just lovely. It's how Dragon stuff should be. It's completely out of the box. Everything that you need is in there. Tons of options. I think I got this myself. It's either 25 or 29 off eBay, and they're everywhere. And it's really easy. So be careful, because you don't want to get, you know, turning into me and buying tons and tons and tons of Dragon stuff. But I would say, as I told someone recently, if you're ever having a bad day with modeling, let's say you're reviewing tons of kits that maybe you never set out to build, like I review a lot of stuff I got to build up really quickly. If you're having a bad day with modeling, build one of these, or a Stug 3. These kits are just great. I can't recommend this one enough. Like, everyone should build this thing if you're into World War II German armor. Like, everyone. It's fantastic. So that's my thoughts. I know I've rambled a bit, but I can't say enough good things about this Dragon Panzer III.